bulletins around the world have been following Russia's election rallies. But one channel stands out. America's Fox News has been showing streets ablaze, violent clashes and firebombs thrown at security officers. But with one major problem. The images are not from Russia, they're from Greece. Marina Portnay has been watching.
America has its fair share of protests and political dissent to be dealing with. Instead of keeping an eye on the ball, the country's mass media machine has turned to protests in Russia and dropped the ball on reporting the facts.
Thousands of protesters have gathered in Moscow, lashing out against Prime Minister Vladimir Putin and his ruling United Russia Party.
The only problem is that this video is not from Russia. Fox News Channel aired video of fires and chaos in Athens, convincing viewers that this mayhem is playing out in Moscow. The Fair and Balanced network paid no mind to the Greek lettering in the background. In case you're wondering, it says Greek National Bank. What matters is that this is what Moscow protests have looked like.
It's not surprising whatsoever that at the moment that there would be any kind of protest, no matter how small it be in Russia, against the Russian government, that it would be greatly exaggerated in media and used by the U.S. government as well as a way to try to somehow push for a change in Russia that would be more favorable to U.S. interests.
Now let's talk a little bit about Israel, because I know that that is something we all care about. Shomer Yisrael. It's one of the most important things I do, to watch, be the guardian of Israel. First and foremost, Barack Obama has been a supporter and a believer in Israel from before he was in the Senate. You can look it up and see the record. And you know who got him started in politics? Not in the presidential. That's everyone, as I said, says the right thing. But before that, it was the two leading Jewish families of Chicago. But most people don't know enough about him. So I wanted to come here and tell you this.
What do violinist Yitzhak Perlman, Oscar-winning actress Natalie Portman, and Chicago's Mayor Rahm Emanuel have in common? They're all Israeli Americans. Just the sort of people the Israeli government is appealing to in media messages to its citizens living in the U.S. Ads urging Israelis there to please come home. Problem is, some influential Americans find them offensive. This one features a little girl's grandparents back in Israel who are celebrating Hanukkah, asking her in Hebrew what holiday it is. Her answer, Christmas. The ad's tagline, the expatriates will always remain Israeli, their children no. Another depicts an Israeli woman and her American maid who wants to party on the day Israelis solemnly observe their annual Memorial Day. The message, they'll always be Israelis, but their spouses won't always understand. One offended Jewish American asked whether the ads were suggesting that Israelis should avoid marrying American Jews. The influential North American Federation of Local Jewish Community Leaders wrote, this outrageous and insulting message could harm the Israel-diaspora relationship. That got the attention of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who ordered the ads pulled. Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren, apologized for the government, saying the ads, quote, clearly did not take into account American Jewish sensibilities, and we regret any offense they caused. Outside Washington's Jewish Community Center, Richard Singerman says he understands the complaints.
Yeah, there's no reason to tick off the American Jewry needlessly, or Israelis for that matter. So I think it's great that Americans spend time over there, Israelis spend time over here. People are going to ebb and flow.
But most of the flow is in the direction of the U.S. Despite Israel's appeals for Jews to come and settle there, fewer than 30,000 American Jews have made that move in the past decade or so. That's just a fraction of the estimated 600,000 Israelis living in the U.S., leaving many Israelis asking which place is really home. Tom Ackerman, Al Jazeera.
Washington finally decided to come clean on the loss of one of its most advanced and secret unmanned aircraft over Iran. The RQ-170 Sentinel, built by Lockheed Martin Corporation, has been designed for top-secret spying missions. Its radar-absorbent skin has been designed to make it literally invisible to even the most sophisticated radars in operation today. The spy drone was used to eavesdrop on Osama bin Laden's hideout in Pakistan before the much-publicized U.S. raid on his compound. Nicknamed the Beast of Kandahar, It is believed the aircraft has been operating out of Kandahar Air Base in Afghanistan since 20.
In Bucharest, Romania, in a residential neighborhood, this building is a secret the Romanian government has tried to protect. For years, the CIA used this building as a makeshift prison for its most valuable detainees. It is codenamed Bright Light. And it is here that 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was held, along with others, before heading to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. So say former U.S. intelligence officials identifying pictures of the prison.
The cells were prefabricated. They weren't small. I think they were bigger than maybe, your average jail cell here in the United States. They had a clock in the cell and they had an arrow pointing to Mecca. So the prisoners would know when it was time to pray.
The existence of a CIA prison in Romania has long been known, but its location never made public until now, after a joint investigation by the Associated Press and German public television ARD Panorama. The Romanian prison was part of a network of so-called black sites the CIA operated around the world, all of them closed by 2006, the interrogation and detention program ending in 2009. The basement here in Bucharest is one of the most secure rooms in all of Romania, officials say. But Americans running a prison here?
Oh, the Romanian government denies it, that a prison ever existed there and that prisoners were ever existed there. I mean, not only did people identify the prison to us, I mean, there's also, I've talked to half a dozen sources who've all confirmed that they operated a prison there and these were detainees there.
Former U.S. officials say because the building belonged to the government, it provided good cover. The prison did not need heavy security because residents knew it was a federal building. In the neighborhood nearby, shopkeepers are not so sure what happened here.
I don't believe this, because we have friends that live near the place, and they would have told us about cars or something else.
I haven't heard of such things. It's the first time I hear about this, and of course I'm surprised.
In post-communist Romania, people are not inclined to snoop, where security forces are feared, in a country with a history of spying on its own citizens. Lee Powell, The Associated Press.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Friday, December 9th, 2011. I'm Darko, and my website is ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. If you'd like to visit my channel on YouTube, it is ddarko2012. There's my introduction. If you'd like to donate, there's little buttons on my website, also in YouTube's video description. Also, all the links will be posted in YouTube's video description. There's usually about 100 of them, so go in there and check that out. Vladimir Putin accuses Hillary Clinton of inciting protest. So we have a lot of Psy-Ops, a lot of propaganda, disinfo going on right now between the West and the East, and the whole thing could be just a Psy-Op in it of itself. So it could just be a whole show, fake Cold War show. Just like Republican, Democrat, they're both on the same sides, the same ruling families, they all work together. It says here, Vladimir Putin has accused the United States of orchestrating public unrest in Russia's streets after last Sunday's disputed parliamentary election and Cold War-style outbursts certain to damage U.S.-Russia relations. So there you go. Moving on here, we're going to go through Russia, Iran, some interesting articles here in this first video. U.S. undoubtedly provoked Russia unrest, and it says here it's absolutely clear that the unrest in Moscow streets was supported, financed, and encouraged by the United States, a Russian political analyst told Press TV. And he goes on here and he said that the Russians, including himself, might have objections to the Russian government, president, or Russian authorities, quote, but it is our internal business and it's not up to the United States to dictate how we should behave. Remember that video that I showed, what was it, Wednesday or Monday, about Russia, and it was a speaker in that, and he he was talking about Russia and how the West was trying to play the Putin card, and Medvedev is their guy, and they're trying to bring down Putin and get their own little regime change. So yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. Moving on, Russia says no to EU oil ban on Iran. It says it has no plan to join sanctions imposed on Iran oil exports by the European Union bloc. Next up, Moscow sees no military component in Iran's nuclear program. So more backing. There is no military component in Iran's nuclear program, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Rybakov said on Friday. So it says here, Western powers and Israel suspect Iran of seeking to build nuclear weapons. Iran denies it. U.S. silent on spy drone down by Iran. U.S. and CIA continue to remain silent and refuse to adopt an official position more than a day after Iran unveiled that the American spy drone down by Iranian military. This is interesting because it was brought down unharmed, unscathed, I heard it in the radio, BBC radio yesterday, and they were reporting that it was some kind of electronic weapons. So I'm wondering if this thing was hacked and brought to the ground remotely by the Iranian military. Risk of Israel, U.S. strike on Iran has tripled, says Barclays Capital, and that's the risk analysis. Moving on here, Iran general who controls Iraq steps out of shadows. So it says Major General Mr. Soleimani, commander of the Covert Action Wing of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, is stepping out of the shadows as a leading hardliner. And as tension with the United States heats up, and that's really a bad sign, says there's a school of thought among the Iran watchers that Tehran believes the U.S. and Israel, backed by Britain, are gearing up for a showdown with the Islamic Republic. Says some of the students that stormed the embassy there, the British embassy in Iran, were holding pictures of this individual, and it indicates the students were probably members of the Quds Force and paramilitary Bassi organization, the region's strong arm force, which it controls. So that kind of confirms what I was saying before. Armed gangs blow up Syrian oil pipeline, and don't forget that the Iranian diplomats have been expelled. And the embassy's been shut down in Britain. The U.S. has opened a virtual embassy in Iran. And so a lot is going on. Armed gangs blow up Syrian oil pipelines, oil from eastern Syria to the refinery in western city of Homs. Moving on here, U.S. demands Lebanon's anti-Syria move. So Lebanon is in the news again. It says a senior U.S. official has called on the Lebanese government to act, quote, within Arab and international consensus regarding the situation. Lebanon and Iraq abstained from the vote of the Arab League, which approved the sanctions against Syria. Moving on, UN troops again targeted in South Lebanon. United Nations troops once again targets a seemingly easy bombing operations in the southern city of Tyre, targeted a French contingency vehicle, which killed 2 civilians. So this is what is being reported. I'm not in Syria, so I can't say that I know this for sure, but Syrians expressing support for Assad and his reform program, so a lot of people do support him. I do know that. As far as that particular rally, I don't know. Israel stole uranium from U.S. report will show. U.S.-based research institute will soon publish what it says is indisputable evidence that Israel stole weapons-grade uranium for its still undeclared atomic weapons program from a nuclear reprocessing plant in western Pennsylvania. And then we have this, Israel behind much of the militarized brutality of U.S. police. And of course, this is what war on terror, war on drugs is what gives all that money, funds it, and gives the reason for that money to come. It says here, according to Blumenthal, the transformation began after September 11th when American law enforcement officers began to look to Israelis for counterterrorism expertise, and in response, the Israeli lobby provided thousands of top cops with all expenses paid trips to Israel and stateside training sessions with Israeli military and intelligence. Israeli raids killed 4 Gazans, rockets fired at Israel, and they always put rockets fired at Israel. It's like David versus Goliath. It's like throwing stones at people with machine guns. Birth defects and rubble still scar Iraq's. Many Fallujahs have given up on kids because of all the defects, and then they tend to blame the U.S. weapons for ailments that were not seen in the city before 2004. U.S. forces have admitted using white phosphorus, a chemical that can cause severe burns, but is not legally considered a chemical. We have research links rise in Fallujah birth defects and cancers to U.S. assault. This is from December 2010. Saskatchewan uranium. Fallujah's children go in there and check that out. And a medical journal was basically looking at depleted uranium in armaments used by invading forces as the cause of cancer and high death rate in Fallujah. uranium and other contaminants in hair from the parents of children with congenital anomalies in Fallujah, Iraq. This is an actual scientific study, research. Pakistani students protest NATO killings of Pakistani soldiers last month. Then we have Pakistan to redefine terms of cooperation with U.S. and NATO. Well, what is it? Pakistan boosts air defenses at Afghan border as it heats. Pakistan's president in hospital for heart condition. Ooh, it sounds like Mubarak, who had a heart condition too. UN chief arrives in war-torn Mogadishu, but it's kind of weird because everyone's leaving there.